What is an equalizer? An equalizer is an audio filter that isolates certain frequencies and either boosts them, lowers them, or leaves them unchanged. An equalizer will alter the color of an audio signal. It could make vocals more articulate by boosting the treble frequency range. It could make a song sound heavier by boosting bass frequencies. Sometimes, it can be used to remove certain sounds from a recording, like the high-pitched buzz of a fluorescent lighting fixture. What does an equalizer do? An equalizer will adjust audio output so that certain frequencies are emphasized over others. Most do this through the use of linear filters. How those filters function varies based on the equalizer's interface. Frequency breakdown: 50 Hz. The lowest frequency range adds fullness to those bass instruments like the kick drum, toms, and bass. Cut in the 50 to 100 Hz area if they are getting too thick and interfering with the clarity of the low end of your mix. It can also add extra punch to dance music, because it adds a dimension of feeling the bass instead of hearing it. (100 Hz). Boosting here will give the low frequency instruments a harder sound. It adds fullness to guitar and snare. Too much can also clutter up and add boominess. So cut in this area for added clarity in the low end. It also adds warmth to piano and horns. (200 Hz). It really adds muddiness to live venues, but it can also fill up your mix in a negative way. However, if you need to boost, it will add fullness to vocals and snare, as well as give your guitars a thicker sound. If you're still struggling with muddiness, subtle cuts in the master EQ can help reduce unwanted thickness. (300 to 600 Hz). Cuts here will increase punch for kick drums. It'll reduce boxiness and give it a thicker sound. Boosting at 400 Hz can add clarity to bass lines, especially when you're mixing for smaller speakers. 700 to 800 Hz. Boosting 700 to 900 Hz can bring out the bassline without cluttering up the low end. You're targeting the upper harmonics to make them audible in the mix, all while leaving the bass sound itself alone. Reducing 800 Hz takes out the cheap sound of an acoustic guitar, as well as reduce the DI sound of plugged-in acoustic guitars. One to 4 kHz. Boost 1.5 kHz to increase the string sound of the bass guitar. Cut to reduce nasal sound of vocals.
Then we're back to the start, now split apart. The roads are shifting, our worlds apart. We have been here before through these sliding doors. Desperate runaways can't escape our fate. We think it's a dream, but we're wide awake. We've been here before through these sliding doors.
3 kHz adds attack to most everything. Gives you more punch out of your acoustic guitar chords. Gives presence to piano parts, especially if you've needed to cut its low end. It helps to cut the electric guitars here, to make extra room for the vocal, if you're having problems with them clashing. Boosting between 2 to 4 kHz brings out the beater of the kick drum. Five kHz adds extra presence to vocals.
Then we're back to the start, now split apart. The roads are shifting, our worlds apart. We have been here before through these sliding doors. Desperate runaways can't escape our fate. We think it's a dream, but we're wide awake. We've been here before through these sliding doors.
Brings more attack to the tom drums. Cuts will make instruments more distant. So cut here if you need to pull something back without using volume. 7 kHz. Use a de-esser targeting the frequency range between 6 to 8 kHz. To reduce sibilance. Exact frequency range depends on the singer. Boosting can add extra life to dull vocals.
Then we're back to the start, now split apart. The roads are shifting, our worlds apart. We've been here before through these sliding doors. Desperate runaways can't escape our fate. We think it's a dream, but we're wide awake. We've been here before through these sliding doors. Then we're back to the start, now split apart. The roads are shifting, our worlds apart. We've been here before through these sliding doors. Desperate runaways can't escape our fate. We think it's a dream, but we're wide awake. We've been here before through these sliding doors.
Boost for more finger sound on acoustic bass. (10 kHz and above). Most everything above 10 kHz adds air and high-end sheen to instruments. It doesn't always sound good. So don't go boosting everything up there excessively. It can quickly result in a trebly and obnoxious high-end craziness.
Then we're back to the start, now split apart. The roads are shifting, our worlds apart. We've been here before through these sliding doors. Desperate runaways can't escape our fate. We think it's a dream, but we're wide awake. We've been here before through these sliding doors.
Frequency spectrum. Frequency range: 20 Hz to 60 Hz. Sub-bass: 60 Hz to 200 Hz. Bass: 200 Hz to 600 Hz. Lower mids: 600 Hz to 3 kHz. Mids: 3 kHz to 8 kHz. Upper mids: 8 kHz to 20 kHz. Highs. Filter types. High-pass filter. A filter that cuts the entire low end, letting the highs pass through. Bell. A filter centered around a single frequency. The most common EQ filter. Shelf. A filter on the high or low end of the spectrum that cuts or boosts frequencies using a flat line. Low-pass filter. A filter that cuts the entire high end, letting the lows pass through.
Then we're back to the start, now split apart. The roads are shifting, our worlds apart. We've been here before through these sliding doors.
Boosting, or cutting. Boost is when we turn up a specific set of frequencies. Adding to certain key frequencies in a sound source can make them more present, or add certain characteristics to the sound source. Cut is when we turn down a specific set of frequencies. Cutting means that you find the problem frequency and cut down on it, either completely eliminating it or reducing it until it ceases to be a problem. Types of equalizers. Graphic equalizer. Graphic equalizers are basically a collection of fixed frequency Bell filters. Graphic EQs come in various sizes, including 31 band, 15 band, and 10 band. Some graphic EQs, like the 10 band API 560, use proportional Q technology for a musical tone, while 1/3 octave EQs work well for notching out resonances, but struggle to create smooth EQ. By using multiple bands simultaneously, graphic EQs can be used to create more sophisticated EQ shapes, like shelving or bell curves, similar to parametric EQs. Parametric equalizers. With dedicated controls for frequency, gain and bandwidth, sometimes called Q, parametric EQs offer more flexibility than graphic or selectable equalizers. Parametric EQs come in two basic variants: semi-parametric and fully parametric. Fully parametric EQs include frequency, gain and Q, bandwidth controls for each frequency range, like low, low-mid, mid, high-mid and high, allowing for advanced tone shaping capabilities. Semi-parametric EQs offer frequency and gain controls, but not fully adjustable Q controls for each band, and are commonly found in studio and live sound consoles. Parametric EQs often contain high and low EQ bands that can be switched between shelving and bell shapes. Shelf EQs boost or cut a signal above or below the specified frequency, while bell curves boost or cut the signal centered on the selected frequency. Semi-parametric EQ. Semi-parametric EQs are essentially parametric EQs with fewer options. Most often, this missing functionality means no Q control. However, other parameters may also be lacking, and at some semi-parametric EQs will have Q controls. Parametric EQs ideally have continuous control within defined ranges over all the important parameters of equalization. Semi-parametric EQs, then, will have some but not all of these controls. They generally are missing one or more key parameter controls. That being said, the adjustable parameters that semi-parametric EQ units do offer make them go-to choices for more involved EQ applications, including, but not limited to, tone shaping and surgical EQ. The parameters of a semi-parametric EQ differ depending on the filter type, which is often selectable. The number of bands in a semi-parametric EQ is often less than in fully parametric EQs, but will typically be between 3 and 7. Plugins tend to have many more bands than this. Semi-parametric EQs can be designed to process as mono, stereo, mid-side, and other multi-channel audio formats. When should we use an equalizer? In sound recording, equalization may be used to adjust frequency responses for practical or aesthetic reasons, where the end result typically is unequal volume levels for the different frequencies. For example, equalization is used to modify an instrument's sound, or make certain instruments and sounds more prominent. A recording engineer may use an equalizer to make some high pitches in a vocal part louder, while making low pitches in a drum part quieter. Equalization is commonly used to increase the depth of a mix, creating the impression that some sounds in a mono or stereo mix are farther away or closer than others. Equalization is also commonly used to give tracks with similar frequency components complementary spectral contours, known as mirrored equalization. Selected components of parts that would otherwise compete, such as bass guitar and kick drum, are boosted in one part and cut in the other, and vice versa, so that they both stand out. Equalizers can correct problems posed by a room's acoustics, as an auditorium will generally have an uneven frequency response, especially due to standing waves and acoustic dampening. For instance, the frequency response of a room may be analyzed using a spectrum analyzer and a pink noise generator. Then a graphic equalizer can be easily adjusted to compensate for the room's acoustics. Such compensation can also be applied to tweak the sound quality of a recording studio. In addition to its use in live sound reinforcement systems and even home hi-fi systems.